Well, we had some rain overnight and this morning, and now we move ahead to the big travel day ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. And we've got a soaking rain headed here for Thanksgiving Day for eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. And actually, that rain's going to be happening up and down the eastern seaboard, including here where I am in North Georgia. And we've got some winter time coming in the overall pattern at a number of levels. So we're going to talk all about that and so much more on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which you can easily support where it doesn't cost you a dime. If you shop on Amazon, use our referral link at the that's pinned to the top of the chat board or is on the descriptor to this podcast. You don't have to buy the stuff that's in the shop, my shop that's on there on Amazon. You can just go to use the search bar and get whatever it is you're looking for, and Amazon throws us a little bit of coin for sending for us sending you there, and it doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. It's just an easy, great way to support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, and a good place to do your holiday shopping. So here we are. It's Tuesday night, so tomorrow's the big getaway day. I just watched, actually, for the first time, almost sat through an entire newscast in years. I mean, I never even used to watch the shows I worked on. So, first of all, Joe, David Muir had a black jacket on last night. He had a
Again.
he had a black jacket on tonight, but tonight's jacket was completely different somehow from last night's. Okay, now, he did the shoulder thing. Where'd you go?
I just turned my I turned myself off because I see I'm a little blurry. I think that maybe if I turn the camera off and on,
Oh, you
I'd
look
be
good
less
to
blurry.
you look good to, I could see the blur fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
And
you're
the
good.
lighting? You
Yeah,
said last night
yeah,
was
yeah.
dim.
The lighting is good. Yes,
Oh,
it shows your fantastic bone structure. Your entire body hangs off your cheekbones.
thank you, thank you.
So yeah, so David Burr had the shoulder thing going, with the hands and all. Uh, for one thing, just really quick, I just want. First of all, I didn't realize, but they spend like the first 3 minutes of the show basically teasing every single story that's in the show. Okay. And then they start it, and then they proceed to tease Ginger Z like 6 times before they get to her. When they finally get to her, she basically has enough time to say, "Well, David, it's going to rain. Back to you." And that's it. Okay, try to stay dry, Ginger Z, and does that David Muir thing. Anyway, I just wanted to. Oh, and they found some car in Scarsdale, a Lincoln Continental that apparently had driven off the road into some lake in back in 1980, and these people went missing, and they never found them. But they found the car today in the bottom of the lake, and they think that it was an accident that they went off the road and the car sank down at the bottom of the lake, and nobody ever found them until 44 years later.
Well, it happens.
It does. Okay, enough. All right, so we've
I know
got.
that. By the way, I thought the David Muir evening newscast, the most amazing thing was the last story they did about Mary Poppins
Yes, I saw that.
and
That was pretty
and
cool.
and the interview they had with Dick Van Dyke, who's now like 98 years old.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
It's
he
just
looks good, and he looks good.
he does.
He
He
looks
looks
great for
absolutely
98. I mean, Julie Andrews is close to 90,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know. Um, Anyhow, a couple of things. One of the things that struck me today, weather-wise, looking across the guidance, and with all the cold air that it's showing, uh, over the next starting this weekend and going through all of next week and probably be a bit beyond that, was the fact that I think on the European, I believe it was around day 11 or 12 that it had a 498 thickness in New York, down to New York. And I mean, and that's bitter cold air. Um, and of course, uh, it warms up and rains at the end of the period. Not a flake, not an ice pellet, nothing. And that might be the ultimate irony here is that It's a cold pattern that's setting up, but it may not be especially stormy. I think the way something could happen is you got to have something that's going to dive down into that northwest flow, and the models do show these weak short waves, but they don't really do much of anything with them. So you know what, folks, you could have all the cold air you want, probably the most cold air you've seen in at least 3 or 4 years, and you may not wind up with a snowfall out of it. It would not shock me if that's how it turns out.
You know, sometimes if you're a snow lover, and it kind of reminds me of the winter of 72, 73, which was a pretty cold winter, except we couldn't get any snow up here. We had like maybe at Central Park, up until a couple of years ago, that was the all-time record for the least amount of snow, the winter of 72, 73. And I think at least a couple of times during that year, you know, I'd listen, to the forecasts and like heavy snow or big storms for North Carolina or for Virginia or for the Delmarva, and they never ever made it as far north as us because it was just too darn cold. The cold
Yep.
air was too dry and was able to resist the northward movement of all that moisture. So you're absolutely right, Joe. Sometimes you can get all the cold air in the world, but that's only one of the two ingredients. If you don't have the other ingredient, you ain't gonna get nothing. I mean, some years we've got storm after storm, but it's just too warm. Some years you get all the cold you want, but there are no storms. Who
Right.
knows? Maybe this will be one of those years.
Well, and it hasn't happened very often, but in the last, I don't know, I guess in the last 9 or 10 years, when the Weather Service offices in Western New York put up winter storm watches 5 days in advance, they mean business, and that's exactly what they've done. We have winter storm watches up for the three counties in north central New York, including that includes this is north of Syracuse up I-81, including Watertown and Pulaski or Pulaski, depending on who you ask, and also in four counties in southwestern New York. And this is, just to give you an idea here, as far as when this takes effect, this this begins. I mean, it's Tuesday night, Joe, and this winter storm watch goes into effect. Is for Friday morning through the weekend and into next Monday. So, in past experience with these things, whenever the Weather Service office in Buffalo has done this, um, uh, we've had a mega event, and they're doing it again. So this is going to be, something to watch carefully for the weekend, for portions of north central New York and western New York, and there'll be probably other counties that are going to be added to it, but they've specifically focused on these through two zones, multiple periods of heavy snow. I don't see where they mention any, no speculation of amounts yet, but it could be many inches, and I mean many inches.
Well, part of the reason, probably why they're doing it so early, is that it comes during the big Thanksgiving weekend. And probably they want to alert people who, are going to grandma's house on Thursday that, hey, if you want to get home, you better leave first thing on Friday morning because things are going to get a lot worse travel wise with the potential snow threat after that. So maybe that's why they're doing it so early. Maybe if there wasn't a big weekend coming up, a big holiday weekend, they might have waited until tomorrow or Thursday to post all of these advisories and watches or warnings. But because of the fact that it's again going to be a big travel period, big holiday, they just want to let everybody be aware that things are going to be changing and going downhill rapidly after Turkey Day on Thursday.
And of course, they need to, because it's a holiday, they have to pay overtime to the people who work the, remote control weather, Joe, that they have to, make these lake effect snows um, happen because they've never happened before. Uh, and also, by the way, to show you, WBC with their long range, uh, the long range snow forecast days 4 through day 8. They have these both areas highlighted with 50 to 70 and 70 to 90% probabilities on day 4, which is for Friday into Saturday morning, day 5, day 6, and day 7 in those areas. So if all of that verifies, they're probably, we're talking probably like 2 to 3 feet, maybe even more than that.
Well, that's what you get when you live to the lee of the lakes, and the lakes are wide open. They're certainly not frozen yet, and
Actually, when you think about it, Joe, because of how warm it's been,
yeah.
um, they may be unfrozen for a while. The sustained cold of the next couple of weeks is going to help bring the water temperatures down for sure. But they are at abnormally warm levels there, so that's another thing to consider with respect to the amount of snow that's going to be generated by some of these lake effect streamers that are going to develop.
Yeah, and but the thing I wanted to point out is that, a lot of people, saying, wow, isn't it a little bit early for something like this? Well, not necessarily, because the fact that the lakes are all open, they're not frozen yet. I mean, sometimes in these bitter, brutally cold winters, the lakes freeze up, and if that happens, and you get just the right kind of wind trajectory over the lakes, you're not going to get any lake effect because, well, they just can't pick up the moisture from off the lakes and deposited as snow downwind. Now, however, it's a whole different story. Cold air, very cold air, passing over those relatively warm and wide open Great Lakes will set the stage for. And if you think about it, the last several years, the biggest lake effect storms, the biggest accumulations have been occurring not in, January or February, but in November or
Yeah.
early December.
hmm
And
Well, the
looks like
big
it's going
one
to
from
happen
a
again this year.
the big one, the really big one that occurred a couple of years ago, um, was in November.
Yeah,
They just passed the anniversary of it a couple of days ago. I think it was around the
right.
21st or the 22nd. Meanwhile, we've got this storm system that's coming up, and that's going to produce some snows. Now, I've got the 72-hour forecast here for at least two. So and this takes us to Friday morning. So the lake effect stuff's probably going to start during the day on Friday. So it doesn't really show that. This is more from that particular storm system that's going to be riding up the Appalachians and then heading over. The low is going to pretty much move right over New Jersey and Long Island and then head off into southeastern New England. But you can see in the dark, the lighter blues represent 60% or higher probability for at least two. You've got the area in the Adirondacks where we're looking at an 80% or higher probability for at least two, and a little strip there in Vermont and in northeastern New Hampshire and on up into western Maine. We've got high probabilities there. I'm going to just jump it up to 4 to see what that looks like. This is not going to be much a robust snowfall or anywhere close to a repeat performance of what happened in some areas with the big snows from late last week. This is a totally different setup here. Uh, you do have for 4, it would be in the Adirondacks and then up in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So there's nothing really, very low probabilities in northern Pennsylvania. And in the Catskills, it picks up to about 20 or 30% probability for at least 4. And out in the over the Great Lakes, we've got some higher probabilities in the northern Lake Superior. I'm sorry, in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, on the shores of Lake Superior, and then we have that area in Colorado where we still have a high probability of at least 4 in the middle part of the state and heading on to the west. And in the Sierra Nevadas, I don't see much of anything here, which is odd. There's the map not loading it for me. Hold on. Because I think they still had, last I checked, they had winter storm warnings up, so I'm not kind of surprised. This is from Ballard, by the way, from 12Z Wednesday. That's why. It's my mistake here. Hang on one second. Because I have the 48 hour probability. I should have gone to the 72-hour probability. Maybe that'll help it. There you go. So it's a little bit different here on the 72-hour probability because that takes us to Friday night. And you can see out in the west, we've got some high probability amounts in Colorado and Utah, and a shrinking area in the Sierra Nevadas. And then, of course, you've got the Northeast, and this does take into effect the beginnings of the lake effect in southwestern New York, as well as up, excuse me, in north central New York State. So, in the meantime, we've got winter storm warnings up for central and western Colorado. That strip of counties running north south in the middle of Utah. The counties in the Sierra Nevadas are still under a winter storm warning for tonight, and also some wind advisories a bit further south. Otherwise, the rest of the country right now fairly quiet, and we can see the beginnings of that Pacific moisture coming in and streaming eastward into the plains. And this is going to be organizing as a low develops in the Tennessee Valley and then rides up to West Virginia and then literally moves over northern New Jersey, Long Island, and the low center and into southeastern New England. I'm thinking um, we had a little bit of upside yesterday. A few places got 3 and 4 tenths worth of liquid from last night and this morning. 3 and 4 tenths worth of liquid. Uh, and I'm thinking 3/4 of an inch to an inch, and maybe there might be the odd spot that gets up to about an inch and a quarter.
I think I would go with that. It's not going to be something that's going to be, overly dramatic, overly tremendous. I mean, certainly we picked up, I mean, locally here, we had more than 2.5 inches fall, and even some wet snow mixing in with the last big storm. But this one, I agree with you. I think this one is going to be about an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter, and a good part of it, unfortunately, will fall during the daylight hours of Thanksgiving Day. That, along with areas of fog and chilly temperatures in the mid and low 40s, um, will make for a very dreary weather picture overall on Thursday. It'll be interesting to watch the parade down at New York City, um, because the poor people who are going to be pulling on those big balloons, as well as the performers, they're going to get drenched. They're going to get absolutely soaked at times. I kind of, you know, every year they always have the Rockettes, in one way, shape, or form, coming down in the parade, and they're always fitted with, as you would see them on stage. I hate to think what it's going to be like to be a Rockette on Thursday, with the forecast of temperatures in the 40s and rain. It really is not going to be a lot of fun. They'll put on a big smile, of course, when the camera's on them, but when the camera's off, I could just I could just imagine what they're probably saying and what they're thinking.
The every time somebody mentions the Rockettes, all I think about are all that comes to mind to me is the Flintstones episode with the girls jumping out of the cake
Yes.
and
Dun, dun, dun,
da
dun,
da 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 da
dun, dun,
da.
dun, 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 dun.
Oh yeah, I mean really, and yeah. Anyway, radar tonight is quiet up and down the eastern seaboard. We've got a little bit of precip aloft in parts of Illinois and Iowa, and also on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. A little snow coming into play there. We've got some snow in Colorado. Radar's pretty active, and also in that area in Utah. And we've got some rain that's coming in off the Pacific Ocean between San Francisco and Los Angeles, and then it's pushing up against the Sierra Nevadas from the west side, as well as some rain and snow showers in northern Nevada, and a little bit of shower activity coming into Washington State, but really not a whole heck of a lot. I don't think there was anything to get excited about from the Storm Prediction Center, so we'll just take a look quickly there. And oh, they do have risk. Okay, so let me bring the map over on the other screen. There we go. So the Storm Prediction Center has a marginal risk for tomorrow, Wednesday into Thursday, across Mississippi into Alabama. And then on day three, which is Thursday into Friday. So this is me. They got a fairly large area of marginal risk covering southeast Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle, up into central and Mississippi, northern Alabama, just about all of Georgia except the extreme northwest, all of South Carolina, and most of North Carolina under a marginal risk for severe weather. So there's that. And as far as the rain goes, WPC's going half to three quarters now, and less than a half inch for Central and South Jersey. So they've kind of toned it down a bit. Uh, Rainfall amounts in the South anywhere from a quarter of an inch to some areas of a half, a little bit of three quarters in eastern North Carolina. This is a 7 day precip forecast that goes to next Tuesday night. So all of this you see in the east is pretty much front end loaded. Some moisture along the Gulf Coast. You've got the snow in Colorado, half inch to an inch amounts there, little dot there of an inch and a half. Lesser amounts in Utah, and not a whole lot happening up and down the eastern seaboard. So, Joe, it's a cold pattern. Everybody was kind of bracing for this pattern change, and they got it. And all um, the setup with the upper air. Certainly, you see that northwest flow from Canada going right down into the eastern part of the United States. This is our first. Let me back it up. This is the first short wave that's swinging through, and this is for Thursday. And then it starts to turn colder, but the real cold air gets here Friday night, and we're probably going to see a lot of areas get down into the 20s eventually, and including the coast. I think that probably happens Saturday night into Sunday morning. And as that first area of cold air comes in, another upper low and trough dive into the eastern part of the United States. But the problem here is, Joe, that the trough is in the east, but it's too far east. It's lined up more along 75 west, between 70 and 75 west instead of 70, and that keeps things pretty dry. The other issue is that you don't really have systems in the southern part of the jet stream that are getting kicked along. One does finally come in, but you're going to have to wait till December 9th for that to come crashing into the Pacific Northwest. So unless there's something in that northwest flow that the models aren't picking up on, or if they are, it's not really showing very much. It is conceivable that we could be very cold with temperatures running 10 or more degrees below normal for the better part of the next 2 weeks and not see a flake or an ice pellet uh, along the coastal plain.
Well, sometimes you can get big snowstorms from Alberta clippers, especially if, for example, there was a big snowstorm in 1956. Now, I don't remember this, but I did see the maps and looked at the maps. Uh,
You looked at
big,
them while you were in utero.
yeah. There was a lot of cold air in March of '56 over the northeastern United States. Here comes this little dinky Alberta clipper through Minnesota, and so it couldn't. It was blocked by the very cold air and couldn't move eastward. So it turned sharply southeast and wound up passing south of us through Virginia. And then, as it got its feet wet out over the ocean, it suddenly intensified to major storm status, and interacting with all that cold air produced a big snowfall for the Northeast. So you can have that. You can have those kind of setups, although they're very, very few and very far between. But and it's something I would assume that it was a nothing storm initially. So I guess if you're looking out like 2 weeks, it would probably be picked up as a nothing storm. Whether or
Right.
not the models would be able to translate that into something significant several days later is a big question mark. But what I'm
Well,
saying is that it's going to get cold, yes, and still there's a chance, but everything has to fall perfectly into place for you to get a significant snowfall in that type of a pattern.
yeah, I mean, there are divers that are going to be coming down in the next 2 weeks, and the model kind of shows it, but because of where the trough axis is, you can't really do much with it. I would, and on the other side of that argument, I would say, look, if the models were generating snowstorms in the next 2 weeks in the long range, you know that they're not going to happen, however they show it anyway. So you're almost better off the models not showing it out at 300 hours. You saw what's happening with this one that was being paraded back a week or so ago. I mean, they got the low part right, but they got the upper air profile and the temperatures wrong. You can see that there is a little bit of snow that's going to happen way inland, in northern Pennsylvania and into New York State, and eventually in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. But the low goes by. No problems, by the way, during the day tomorrow. If you're traveling tomorrow during the day and into tomorrow evening, you're fine. It's not until after, say, 1 a.m. on Thursday that you're going to start to get into some precipitation. So, and pretty much the weather's going to be okay up and down the eastern seaboard tomorrow, and even out in the west. And that's another thing, by the way. They spent so much time. They made it sound like this monster storm is coming out of California and is going to basically rip apart the rest of the country on Thanksgiving. It's not that bad. It really isn't. It's a little low that's coming out of Colorado, where breaking news: it snows in Colorado and Utah. I don't know if anybody really knows this. And then the low just kind of center jumps its way into Tennessee and Kentucky, and he brings some rain. Yeah, it's going to rain for the parade, but I mean, this is not going to be a debilitating storm that is going to cripple, areas with the heavy snow. Not at all. So, but you know what? They gotta sell their newscast and get the few viewers they actually get. And then after that goes by, I mean, you can see the high coming down from Canada. There's a lot of cold air that spreads everywhere east of the Rockies. It's all the way down into Florida. There's a reinforcement that comes down during next week, that's going to settle into the southeast. And then you see one of those divers I mentioned here, Lake Winnipeg, to the lakes, but this one goes up down into New England and then it pops out in the ocean somewhere. There's another one here that comes from South Dakota, that heads into Ohio, and you can see there's got a little bit of snow and then some rain from Ohio down to Kentucky and Tennessee. That falls apart, and then yet another cold front comes through around the 6th or 7th of December with another big high and another shot of very cold air that comes into the east. So, we haven't had a period of sustained cold like this. You probably have to go back to the winter of 21, 22. I think,
I
to
think, yeah, yeah.
yeah, 21, 22, to find something where we had sustained cold for more than 3 or 4 days. And this is going to probably, I'm going to think, last at least 10 days, if not longer. But, you know, it, in the Northeast, at least in the Northeast, um, getting sustained cold has been a rare event since the winter of 2014, 2015. But Joe has the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook.
And you can see on the 6 to 10 day, Joe, that the area that encompasses much of southern New England, southward through the mid Atlantic, and all the way down into the southeastern states, and includes your area as well, on the 6 to 10, falls into the 80 to 90% probability for below normal temperatures. 80 to 90% is indicated in the legend below as likely below. So you can see that from the 2nd of December through the 6th of December on the 6 to 10 day outlook, we're looking at a broad area of temperatures that are going to be pretty well below normal, probably in the New York City metropolitan area, hovering close to 40 at best during the afternoon hours by day, and down in the 20s at night. So it's going to be a stretch of prolonged cold that we have not seen. And you're right, Joe, because when we've seen cold temperatures like this, it usually encompasses a relatively small area, usually in the past, like part of the Northeast, would get it, or maybe a piece of the lower peninsula of Michigan extending into part of uh, New York State and Pennsylvania. But this is a fairly large area. And again, a 6 to 10 day outlook indicating, a stretch from, again, the 2nd to the 6th of December. Now, if you're wondering about, let's say, the 8 to 14 day, it's not quite as dramatic, but still, let's see, one, two, three, four, five. We're just outside of the fifth category here. This right here would be 70 to 80% probability of below normal. The New York metropolitan area would be in the 60 to 70% range. And that's not bad. And that also covers the period from the 4th through the 10th of December. So this is a long stretch. Now, if you're talking about precipitation, you're saying, okay, here we go. We got the cold. Now, what about the precipitation to make snow? Well, I hate to tell you this, or I hate to show you this.
We've
Let me
already
just,
told them it's going to be dry.
there you go. There you go. Look at all this. At least half the country is under below normal conditions in terms of precipitation, near normal near the Great Lakes. Only places that are above normal, a slice of the northern plains and down across central and especially southern Texas. Those are the areas that have the best shot of being above normal precipitation wise, but otherwise, much of the nation near or below normal precipitation wise, both on the 6 to 10 and also if we look here on the 8 to 14, whoops, 8 to 14 day outlook, about the same story. So there you go. Thank you very much to David Fuller for hitting Super Chat. He says, isn't it funny how Noah predicted above the above the Lord say, oh no, you don't. It will be cold. Watch this one.
Okay, he must have typed this on this. I kind of know what I think I know what he's saying. That Noah predicted above normal. However, the Lord said, no, you
Oh no, you
don't. It
don't.
will be cold. Yes.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you for hitting Super Chat, David. Uh, all right, let's do Briller Jeopardy. I got it tonight. So,
Oh, you got it.
yeah. We're still on this average lows for November thing. So we're going to start tonight with Flatsburgh, New York.
Plattsburgh, a favorite town of mine from here on for the rest of my life. That's where I saw the total eclipse last April 8th, and always will remember it. Not so much maybe for the eclipse, but for the length of time it took to get home. Interstate 87 was wall to wall traffic. Took over 8 hours to get from Plattsburgh back home.
And
I think both,
the exits are 40 miles apart, so it's not like you could get off,
yeah, it's true.
you know?
Absolutely. So now you're asking for the low or the high?
The average low.
Hmm.
The average low for Plattsburgh. Oh, we already have a winner. CW CWTR Shark at 28. 28 and Adam Lowe, 28. Give him a bell ring, Joe.
I'll give him a bell ring. Hmm.
Next we have Syracuse.
Well, Syracuse, I would think, would be warmer. Not by a whole heck of a lot, but warmer. How about 33?
Oh, that is so close. So close. Maggie P hit it right off the bat. 32. 32. Give her a bell ring, Joe.
By the way, we have 47 likes, so
Yes, and thank you for those of you who hit the like button. I didn't go through my usual spiel that I do about watching the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Though we're not going to be on this Thursday. And of course, if you're new to the channel, I usually tell you to turn your to subscribe and turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And if you'd like the show, hit the like button. And welcome
by
to
the way,
everybody on the chat board.
incidentally, this supposedly this bell that I'm using
Yes.
is is a replica of the bell that was used in the movie It's a Wonderful Life. Here's the I still have the tag on the bell, but here you can see it.
Well,
So
then you could say that you could basically say, Joe, that when you ring a bell, an angel gets his wings or her wings. So
yeah,
we've been making angels here for how long now?
quite
Um,
a bit. Yeah.
quite a bit. All right, to a warm spot, Key West. Key West.
Oh, Key West. How about 68?
Believe it or not, that's too low. Uh, Key West. Uh, 70, Tyler Fienga, the first one to post for Key West, and Vincent Croce, the second. I'm sorry, the third. 72. 72, the average low. Um, Next is the city that, whenever we say, Denver, I always kind of throw my hands up because it's so frustrating there because the spreads are so wide. But Denver, Colorado is next.
Denver. Hmm, 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 hmm. I don't know. 30. Yeah, I'll say 30.
All right, good that you said 30. It's high, it's a little high, but not terribly high. Chuck Cardillo bangs it at 26. Give Chuck a ring. Because he had to shovel through all that snow that he had at the top of in the Catskills there.
Very good,
Uh,
Chuck.
Last one tonight is Las Vegas.
Lost
Actually, next
wages,
to last because
Nevada.
we have a bonus. Las Vegas.
Lost wages. Let's see. Well, what did I say for what was the other one? I think my memory is going
What from
overdrawn.
tonight? What, Key West?
Key West. What did I say for Key West was
67. It was 72 was the answer.
I'll say 77
The average low
in Las Vegas.
in November? Let me put it this way, Joe. That
Well,
that
it's
mountain
desert,
climb
right?
that mountain climber fell off the cliff and then continued into the core of the earth. You're so you're so far. Actually, Rich Rothmansky got it here. A lot of people were going high. 47.
Wow.
47 is the average low in Las Vegas. And the bonus tonight is Toronto.
Do you want it in Celsius or Fahrenheit?
No, Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit's fine.
Toronto. Toronto, Tonto. Um,
Ring the bell for Rothmansky.
all right.
Give him a
Rich,
ring.
there you go.
All right, so now we have Toronto.
Toronto. 35.
Ring the bell for yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
I make a startling comeback from 77 to
Yeah,
35,
you,
right?
you had a yeah that was a whoa. I think you were thinking maybe average high, but whatever. You know, it's hard to keep all these numbers. As we get older, we just don't have our hard drives are full, so we can't empty them to make space, mainly because we don't want to.
And and I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning because today was another day to look after
Oh, the grandchild.
the tiny tornado, as I've come to
Yes.
call him.
I got my three here on Thursday, and my house is I am so organized this Thanksgiving, it's scary because I have gotten everything done already. There's stuff that I prepped ahead of time. All I have to do now is just put the turkey in the oven and the potatoes in the oven. That's all I have left to do. I already set to have the table set. In fact, let me see if I can bring up pictures of it. Hold on. Uh,
Are we going to get a
Google.
tour now?
No, you're not going to get a tour. I'm just going to show you the pictures of my set table. And nope, that's not it. Here we go. Just a second. I gotta find them. Okay, here we go. So here's that's a that's a blurry shot. Let me get this one. So this is my table is set for Thanksgiving dinner, and so that's that. So you can see the tablecloth. It's got the tablecloth is very, it's got birds on it, and uh, I have a nice centerpiece that was given to me by Alan and Mary Casper, and that's sitting there in the middle of the table. And then after that, of course, we've got the tree and everything else, and the presents now are gathering around the tree, and there's my fireplace that's not working. And Joe's fireplace isn't working either. So,
No, the fireplace is working.
right,
However,
the chimney issue.
we discovered on Friday of this past week that we were getting a bit of a leak, a drip, drip, drip through the one of the bulbs, one of the floodlights, immediately adjacent to the fireplace, and we've determined that what it is that the flashing. Now, those of you who have a chimney know what a flashing is. It's kind of like that piece of metal or copper that's wrapped around the base of the chimney, and that plus maybe some shingles in the immediate vicinity, well, somehow or other is allowing moisture to get on in through and then to come through all of that down into the attic, down across a beam in the attic, and then down through the electrical light next to the fireplace. So, in other words, my fireplace works, Joe, but unfortunately, the chimney and the area immediately adjacent to the fireplace and the chimney is somehow letting moisture come through, and it is leaking now, drip, drip, drip. Not today. Today we didn't have all that much rain or whatever, and maybe even on Thanksgiving Day. But when we get a really big rainstorm like we did last Friday, and it might have been also because of this little bit of wet snow, and maybe caused some ice or whatever. That's what's causing the leak to come on through. And I commented to you off air. We called the guy up. He came yesterday. He looked at it. He made the assessment, and he said, "All right, I'll email you my estimate for how much this is going to cost you." Didn't get anything for the rest of the day yesterday. Got nothing today, which really I'm annoyed at. And meanwhile, while I'm telling this to you, you're telling me about your fireplace problem.
Right. Mine is the
And
fact. Yeah, I've always had a wood, I've always had a wood fireplace, but when I bought my cabin here, it had a the prior owners had converted it to a gas fireplace, which is fine. I could always get the intake, have it taken out and just go back to the, standard wood fireplace. And there is a certain amount of convenience just to be able to use a remote and turn it on and turn it off whenever you want. Well, the starter's not working. And this is the second time in 2 years that the starter went on me. So I'm debating about whether if the new starter costs me too much money, I may just have them pull the whole insert out and just go back to a wood fireplace, which means that I'm going to have to split wood and stack wood. I don't know if I have the strength anymore to stack wood, but I'll certainly give it a try. But no matter, first world problems, as I
but
like to say.
as it turns out, you often have said that you and I are like joined at the hip,
Right,
and here we are. We have problems with our homes now, not necessarily the same type of problems, but immediately adjacent chimney, fireplace.
right,
More or less the
right.
same type of problem.
Fireplace, gas insert, it's all connected. Yeah, Joe.
Yep.
We, you know, one of us is better not. One of us better not fall off a building or something, because then the other one is going to be in fear for 2 or 3 days. This is the fact because over the years, something something would happen to one of us. The same a similar thing would happen to the other. We both
Right.
had, the crowns came out on both our teeth, within like days of each other. So there was a bunch of things like that. Because Joe and I go back 47 years, right? 47 years now.
Long time ago.
Long time. So
Yeah.
we're just kind of joined at the hip. And we actually go back even longer than that, but it's too long a story to tell tonight. And
Right.
we're not going to tell it tomorrow night either, which we will be here. Okay, just not going to tell you that story.
Right.
So we'll be
Exactly.
back tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Remember, there's no show on Thanksgiving Day, so after tomorrow, we'll be back on Sunday. So see you guys tomorrow.
Have a good night.